Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to have you join us today. Another one of our series of webinars brought to you by sunbizweekly.com. I hope that you're a sunbizweekly.com watcher and viewer and participant, because we really appreciate it. We've had a good year. We haven't even been up for a year, and I think we've had close to 12,000 individual viewers come to the site. So we're very happy about that. But anyway, welcome to our webinar today. And this one, I know I say all the time that this one's more important or whatever. This one is super, super important. And just by what I've written down on the screen down there that came from research of our client base, or people that we've worked with over this last couple of years, that 30 to 40% of most salon company employees are actually costing salons opportunity revenue. And we'll get into that, and we'll show you why, because I think we've got something really powerful to share with you today, and we hope that you get a lot out of it. And I would strongly recommend that you put words into the chat box and ask whatever questions you want, because not only is it me, but we've got a very special guy back on here with us. He was on with us once before, and he got rave reviews. I don't know if he's raving or not, but he got rave reviews. And so you all know who this old fart, I mean, it's me. And this guy here, Dion, are you with us?
I am with you.
All right. Well, guys and gals, this is Dion Borkowitz. He is a very special guy, and I'm going to give you some of his background in just a minute here. He is the owner of Electric Beach Tanning, but we're going to give you more about his background in just a second. What I would like to do is, let me just, if I can get this PowerPoint going here. Okay, so before we get to a background, I wanted to just kind of go over the realities of today's tanning business. And it's very little like the business from even 5 years ago, because 5 years ago, we had a business model that was very much the field of dreams. You build it and they will come. And that's just not the point anymore. So Dion Borkowitz, who is with us, who is the owner of Electric Beach in Milwaukee, and I'm going to give you more of what makes him a great owner in just a minute here. But I know, Dion, you've got a couple comments that you wanted to make on what's going on with this business.
Yeah. Well, it was probably around 2011 or so. One of the magazines and one of the trade shows had said, if you want to survive in the tanning industry, you need to bring down your rates. We need to be competitive with the gyms. Many nationwide gyms, Planet Fitness, and some other big names are adding tanning. They were able to get around the tanning tax. Well, they're adding on tanning, and they're having these packages that are $19.99 for fitness and tanning. And of course, we lost many clients to the gyms. But that was a big mistake. I'm kind of really surprised that the industry made that strategic decision for us, which was inaccurate. As a result of trying to compete with the gyms and not having the lower internal cost structure that the gyms have, many tanning salons went out of business. We need to be our own separate entity, go after more lucrative demographics. We don't want to compete with the gyms. Those people that want $19.99 per month, sure, go ahead, clean your beds. You have somebody that's not telling you how many minutes to go. They're not following the regulations. There's fingerprints all over the place. There's 3 lamps are out. If you want that type of package, you want to pay those prices, then go to the gyms. So we differentiated ourselves completely. We don't compete with them anymore. We had at one time a sign in the window that said unlimited tanning as low as $19.99 per month. We scraped all that off. We inverted our price board. We put the most expensive packages at the top. We invested in some new 2016 equipment. We bought the best spray tan equipment. We just differentiated ourselves, tried to move up and increase our prices.
Well, Dion, if you remember, Dion, back years ago, even before the gym thing came along, even before that, the 80-20 rule was that there was a time when you had 80% of your beds in entry-level beds and 20%, in advanced or higher level, and then that's just the most profitable chains have proven. That's just flipped around, and it's that. It's that differentiation that you're talking about. And go ahead, I won't interrupt you.
No, that was exactly what I wanted to say, was we are now, we actually closed a store that had a Planet Fitness right next door to it. I don't want to compete with that. I don't want those level 1 low cost, low-priced clients that want something that can compete with the gym. I don't want that anymore. So our other tanning salons have bigger rooms, bigger beds, and more expensive prices. We have nothing that is $19.99 anymore.
Well, the other thing too, which hello, the other thing that we have all found out is that you've not only you have to have an equipment differential, but your employees, right?
Absolutely. And I think this is where this presentation comes in, because it has a lot to do with the training and grading of your employees to find out where they are. I mean, sometimes you can have the best equipment in the world, but if you don't have the proper salesperson, you have someone you're paying $7.50 an hour to, they're not going to be able to sell that equipment. That's like being in a hospital and having just the best equipment possibly there, but if the doctor doesn't know what he's doing, good luck. You need people that are, and John, actually thanks to you over a year ago when I met with you, you encouraged us to hire more mature salespeople, and we have that. In fact, every manager on staff is minimum of 40 years old, and many of our employees are older, and that makes a big difference.
Dion, I got to tell you, I got to tell everybody, I got to share this with them. You've got a lady on staff. Is it Vicky?
Vicky, Jody, Melanie, Pam.
Jody has got to be how old? How it's we can talk about.
She doesn't mind. She just had her 56th birthday.
I'm telling you, and you guys would think. I think a lot of people on this call would say, "Oh no, you got to have somebody in their 20s." Excuse me. And look, there's things to be said about any age, and what you're really looking for is maturity. You can get people very mature at 21, but here's a gal that's in her 50s, and I'm telling you, the first moment I met her after Dion hired her, I was so impressed. She is such a classy lady. She has great interpersonal skills. We'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about attributes later, but I got to tell you something. If you guys could all have a Jody on your staff, you would be very fortunate.
Well, thank you.
And that kind of goes to what we've talked about, Dion, is that you market your salon as the real experience provider, not the gyms thing where you're waiting in line for their 4 pieces of equipment and you got to clean your own bed.
Yes.
So let me get down to to let everybody know here why they should listen to us today, because that's a good question. A little bit of a background, and I'm almost frightened to tell you guys, between Dion and I, we have almost 60 years of combined tanning experience, which Dion, that makes either you or I very old. I'm not sure which, but it's probably me. But anyway, just myself, just as a quick background. Worked as an executive for 5 Fortune 500 companies, including CBS and that little company Target, where I was director of marketing operations for their entertainment division, and my 5 books, which if you don't have a copy of The Game Changer, it's on. If you're a member of the Vault, it's there for free download. And of course, BA in marketing, MBA in HR management, and of course, the Power Good companies is our companies, which we do the consulting with. And of course, we have the Far Factor Vault, and I'm proud to say I'm the publisher of the SunBiz Weekly. I'd like to have you join us. Dion has got, this is a background that dwarfs mine. He's got an MBA in management, or just about, you're very close to getting it, right, Dion?
Yeah, that one I still have 2 classes left.
And then you're done. Okay. And he has a Master of Science in Accounting, which means that some people would say he's a bean counter. No, I can tell you he's just damn smart. That's all there is to it. And since Dion, I can't even balance a checkbook, or used to when I had to, I'm pretty impressed with you having a master's in accounting. He is an adjunct professor at Lakeland University now in Wisconsin, just a new position that he's taken, and that is like real impressive. Dion, you're one of the smartest people we've ever had on these webinars.
Well,
and I think why we're both on here, and I think this is really the case, is that it's not that we want to hear ourselves talk, but we're both teachers. We love to teach. I love to do it. I know you love to do it, and you're going to make a heck of a professor for them. So that's what we're trying to do here with people. So let's move to what we call, well, there's the Game Changer. Oh, I mentioned that before. If you don't have it, go on the Vault and download that, and it's free to all Vault members. Let's talk about the most valuable player, because that's why we're here, and the question is, who is your MVP? And, you know, a lot of times when I talk to people, and I don't know, Dion, if you've heard it by talking to the retailers, but when you start talking about their most valuable person that they think on their staff, I always hear in there it's somebody that they really like. They like being around, and there's compatibility is good, but in some cases that compatibility is costing you business. As I start on the first slide of this presentation, I would say easily 30 to 40% of the employees that we work with clients around the country, we see that they're way under what their PSA or LPSA should be, and just because the owner likes them, it's costing them business. And so now is the time, and I think, Dion, I know that you're probably just about there, and I'm hoping a lot of people on this call are moving close to is getting your staff organized for 2017, because a lot of people will look at this, Dion, they'll say, well, it's the middle of October. We still got a lot of time.
Right. Season will be here very soon.
Yeah, it always is, isn't it? I mean, you just think, oh, we've got 9 weeks away and we've got plenty of time. Well, you don't. It's right. It's almost right there, and it's making, boy, you know, people will come to me, Dion, sometimes in January, and they say, I got this heck of a problem here. Last year we had an enormous amount of turnover, and the people we have right now we're not very confident in. But in January, that horse is out of the barn. He's galloping down the road, and it's real tough to make changes in January. This definitely is the time to do it right now, because, you know, it's only 9 weeks away. And now, theoretically, I think peak usually starts more late January and maybe first week of February. But still, we want to be ready for it to come January so you're not scrambling. And now is the time to look objectively at staff performances. And you know, Dion is as humanistic. You, Dion, are as humanistic of an employer as I've met among my client base. I mean, you're not a guy that gets up one day and decides to make employees' life miserable for them. You're not a guy that enjoys firing somebody or anything like that. But, you know, we all have to be objective. I mean, they can be really nice people, but if they're not performing, you either have to change the performance or change the performer. And I can tell you, Dion, there is a chain on here today, and I won't tell you his last name. I know his first name is Don, and he runs a heck of a business, but I know that he's going through some of these same kinds of kind of changes in paradigms where he's thinking, you know, I've tried to be nice to these people, but maybe I've got the wrong employees, and I'm looking for a method of measuring them more than what I have right now. Now, if you don't have a method for measuring them, and if you do performance reviews, here's just a few attributes. Now, these are not the measured things that Dion and I are going to talk about. These are somewhat subjective, but they're very important. And by the way, I would hire this lady any day. She's got a great smile. And let's hope she's nice to customers. But the question is, does she have, like this lady, a positive personality? And here's 10 attributes. If you haven't gotten these before in other webinars, you should get these, and you should do this as an objective review of your employees. And now is the time to review them. Do they leave their personal issues at home? I mean, Dion, I'm sure you've seen the time when somebody shows up, they've had a fight with their boyfriend or something's going on, and the next thing you know, they either don't show up, or what they do when they do show up is they're not there in the business.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a destroyer, because you need that enthusiasm. They need to leave those issues at home. And of course, integrity is incredibly important. Can you trust everything they tell you? You know, that's not just taking money out of the till. We're not talking about that, although that goes along with it. But you know, it's some people are just afraid to admit that they made a mistake. And integrity is very important in a relationship with you as an employer and them. Are they reliable, responsible? Do they show up for the shift on time? Good interpersonal skills? Do they possess that natural warmth? There's a lot of things you could do for people for skills and knowledge. But one thing I don't think you can train is natural warmth. So this goes back to when you interview people. And by the way, a week from today, just so you know, is the first part of part one of interviewing superstars. We're going to do 2 weeks in a row. Well, this will actually be 3 weeks by the time we're done. But next Wednesday, I'm going to be putting on a webinar about interviewing superstars, which is now the right time of the year to be thinking about that. And that natural warmth is something in all the interviews I do that I look for, because that makes that person a lot more approachable. And of course, they have to have, of course, great product knowledge. And the question is, do they seek out good equipment and lotions, features, and benefits information? A person that's a natural salesperson will look at ways that they can sell this particular lotion or that particular piece of equipment. Dion, at this point, before I go on, talking about equipments and, lotion features and benefits, of all of the owners that I've sat in with in the last, say, 4 or 5 years, I've never heard anybody do as good of a pitch on selling, like particularly on lotions, as you do. No, whether it's lotions, it's also services. Have you put together your own training checklist for your employees that you use when you go over it with them?
Well, my employees actually go through a training class with me, and it's all in PowerPoint. We've been using the same slides for years. I like PowerPoint. But just all different analogies and situations that they just go through.
Well, I'm telling you, Dion, I told you this too last time I was in Milwaukee. You do a fantastic job, and I think I've even said to you that if it was a question between you and I would have you do the training, because you're really, really good at. You go into such details. But one of the things that you do that's very good is you're very interactive with the employees. You make them feel very comfortable. When I talk about good interpersonal skills up above, you're very approachable. I mean, employees can ask you things, and you'll go over them. You're very patient with them. You should be an adjunct professor, because you've got good skills when it comes to that. Okay, some other attributes. Here's Our Lady again. Are they flexible? And this is important. Can they take coaching? Are they available for additional shifts? Well, the last thing you need is having 5 employees in a salon and no one can work at all ever outside of the shifts that's on the schedule, because, as we know, doo-doo happens. Do they show initiative? Damn, wouldn't it be nice if they could take some initiative without always needing direction? And I think everybody on this call knows there's always things you can do in a salon, like cleaning or deep cleaning or ordering the merchandise on the shelf. So there's always things you can do. And I like when I walk into a salon, when I'm doing a salon tour, and those people don't expect me coming in. I like it when I see an associate in there doing something, not sitting on a stool looking at Facebook on their cell phone. Productive. What are they doing in between tanners? Super important. Do they display good work pride? Oh, and by the way, Dion, one thing I'd like to ask your appearance on, or your opinion on, rather. We have dress codes that are out there, but we're starting to, with clients now, come up with appearance codes. And I know that you are kind of working on a similar issue with an employee or two at Electric Beach because of all of the body piercings and tattoos. I'm curious, and there's no necessarily a right answer. I am curious, Dion, in your opinion, what are you doing about, what do you think salons should do about an appearance code?
Well, definitely each person has to evaluate that themselves for what they want for their company. With me being a little bit older, having been in this business now for almost 30 years, I'm a little bit more conservative, and I wanted my employees to dress professionally, to have a salesperson appearance to them. And I have one girl that we hired, my general manager hired her a year ago, and it was the red hair, it was the piercings, it's the tattoos. She has a lot of tattoos. She has a part-time job in a tattoo facility, and she's actually doing tattoos now. It was a little bit too much for me, and I talked to her about it, and I had a lot of trepidations the first couple months, but she proved herself. And I'm saying all this because she probably will be listening to this recording down the road. She actually turned out to be a great employee. She simplified things. She dresses very nicely. She covers things up. And most importantly is that she's got great interpersonal skills. She gets along with clients very well. She's a good salesperson. And when we get to this rankings that we'll be talking about soon, she does well in almost every category. So sometimes you just have to overlook certain aspects of people. She still is trying to be a great person and to prove herself, but she's in that age that just wanted to, I don't know, stand out a little bit, I guess.
Has she adjusted any of the appearance thing? I mean, has she kind of met you halfway, or does she still
Yes.
pretty?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
She has very red hair, but it's styled beautifully. She
Oh, wonderful.
eliminated the piercings in the face, and her tattoos, there are some that are visible, but she always dresses nice and has longer sleeves and things are covered up.
That's good.
I'm
Well,
okay. I'm okay with tattoos. It's just I just didn't want it to look like someone's coming into a tattoo facility. I want it to be a tanning salon.
a biker bar.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, that's part of that is judgment. You know, do they have good judgment? Um, not necessarily talking about their appearance code, but you know, I want somebody that can attack a customer service problem and not attack the customer. And people that have been in retail for a while, you know, and God, you know, Dion, you've been behind the counter yourself for almost 3 decades. Sometimes a person comes up to the counter and they're honked off at life, not necessarily at you, and maybe not even necessarily at something that happened at Electric Beach. They're just irritated at something, and it's important to get our employees to understand that maybe the best thing we can do is just let them be cathartic, you know, let them blow off their steam, and sometimes that can keep the customer. If they're complaining about something we haven't provided, then we need to give them back empathy, and that's good judgment as opposed to arguing with them. We had a gal years ago, one of the chains out west, that a customer complained about the tan that she was not getting, and this lady, this customer, or this employee rather, argued with her and said she thought she was getting it, and the next thing you know, there was almost a brawl. Now, that just doesn't do it. So you need people with good judgment. Well, those are 10 attributes that we have on an employee appraisal form that we use for sales associates. But let's move on to now. Those are things that you judge by what you can see and what you experience with them. And they're good things. They're very good things to have on your employee appraisals. But let's talk about when you get into these numbers that Dion is talking about. And the question is, when you're talking about who is your real VP, MVP, it may not be the employee you like the most. And for the single salons that are on here, and this is the challenge, Dion, and you know it too, because, Dion, even though you've had 3 or 4 salons and you've had maybe more employees, you know that you're going to get close to some people because maybe you like them because they're just nice people, but also that they do a good job. It's even tougher when you have a single salon and you have 5 employees, you know, and you know these people fairly well, and it's real easy to like somebody and kind of in your own mind as an owner or manager cross that line where you're not really looking at them objectively. So when I say who's your real MVP, it may very well not be the employee you like the most. And so at that point, let me ask you, Dion, when we started the MVP program, what I call the MVP program, and I think you may have a different name for it, but when we started it with working with you on it, were you surprised, and I'm not asking this as a rhetorical question because I don't really remember what your reactions were to the numbers, but were you surprised by some of the results that you saw?
Not really.
Not really.
I think we were always comparing monthly PPAs, we call them per person averages, lotion per person averages, and we were always tracking memberships because we always had contests for who can sell the most this month or every 3 months or for season. As you know, I think I've told you I've taken the staff, the top winners on trips. We've been to Florida, New York, Mall of America, Washington, D.C., where you take the top people of the season to some weekend getaway. And so we've always had contests for memberships. What your plan did when you and I talked early last fall was just put it all together all at once. And then I just started doing it in a visual graph form and then or a table, and then we just kind of you built on it, I built on it. And so now it's just more of a report so everybody can see.
See, one of the things that you did, I mean, what I really respect about what you did, is you not only have invested in some newer equipment, but you've invested in your employees. When you start talking about those kind of rewards where you're taking people on a mini trip like you took them up from Milwaukee up to Minneapolis for the Mall of America, that stuff as a motivator goes way beyond whatever the cost of it. If you, Dion, if you'd taken the money that it cost you to take those people to Mall of America and you divided it up to those people and gave it to them in cash, they'd be happy for about 3.5 minutes. And then, they'd spend the money because their cable bill went up or whatever. But they will not forget that you took them to the Mall of America. They'll never forget that. It was cool. Okay, so it may not be the employee you like the most. It may not be the employee who even customers like the most. I've had situations with salons where there was a person the customer liked the most. Well, the customer liked them the most because for whatever the reason, they never bothered them. They never pushed them. And that's really not the way to look at it, because sometimes we do need to push the customer a little bit to make sure that they're getting the best experience, which would mean getting good color. And that's what we're all about, one of the things we're about. And it may not be the employee who has worked for you the longest. I have a salon client right now that has an employee that's worked for them for 20-some years, and unfortunately I don't think she's the best manager, and they're having a real problem moving past that. I think they're starting to see that that person is definitely not their most valuable player. And then it may not be the employee who works the most hours of transactions. I think sometimes there's a temptation to think that this person works the most hours, the most transactions, so they must be the most valuable, and of course that's not the case. So let's get to what Dion and I worked on when we were in with him, and it's consider adding these 4 powerful monthly measurements to your staffing decisions. And you notice I'm saying monthly, and I want to stop right here because what I'm going to say, and I know, Dion, you'll agree with me because you've got a lady there who is your general manager who's been with you for years. She's a heck of an employee. She really works hard, and I know that you really can depend on her. And what I'd like to say on that is that I think where a lot of salons lose value in the payroll that they pay for their managers is that manager is a manager in title only. They're really a glorified sales associate. Now, it may or may not be their fault. They may not be the person that should have been selected as manager in the first place because maybe they just didn't have the abilities. One of the giant mistakes, Dion, and I'm sure you've seen it, is that what do a lot of tanning salon companies do? They take the person that's the best salesperson and they make them the manager. And somehow they think that sales skills equates to great managing skills, and that is absolutely not necessarily the case. I'm sure, Dion, that you've seen that over the years.
Yes, I agree.
And it's, you've got, Melanie is a good salesperson, but she's a heck of a general manager. I mean, she does a heck of a job for you. And that's normally what happens, and it's just one of the truisms about management is that managers sometimes have to say no. Good salespeople don't like to say no. They like to say yes. They like the sale to proceed and the close to happen. But sometimes a manager has to say no. But anyway, what I'm getting to is that we don't do the job that we should do at the manager level, and that is we need to demand that the managers every month give the owners these kinds of numbers, as Dion referred to before: per sale average, lotion per sale average. Thank you, Dion, for catching that mistake I made before. That's good. EFT close ratio and EFT cancel ratio. Now, if a manager puts these 4 numbers together, now there is one other number which Dion's going to talk about in a little bit here that he created, which is really cool. But if the manager at least puts together these 4 numbers on each employee at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month for the prior month, if you do this, it is such a blueprint to guide you on who needs to be corrected or redirected or retrained. So there are people on this call that I'm sure, because I looked at who's on this call, and there's some very bright folks that have done this before. There's other people that are probably newbies to the business, which, by the way, welcome to the tanning industry. But some people may not know how to calculate those, and so if you're a manager and you're wondering how to calculate it, all the math is based on a per transaction basis, because that's really what you do to have a fair or level playing field, is you do it on a per transaction basis. Now, I don't know, Dion, over the years, I haven't seen an argument yet that there's somebody with more transactions should have a higher or lower PSA, or somebody with lower have you seen anything that justifies some kind of a correlation either way?
No, you'll get employees that'll try a certain type of argument, like, I always work the morning shifts and it's slower, they have more people at night, of course they're going to make more money. Yes, but it's divided by more people. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes at nighttime they're like, I'm so busy, the morning person has more time to spend with them, so they're going to sell more lotions than me. It balances out, and everyone has a variety of shifts.
Well, it's true. You're absolutely right. If you do it on a per transaction basis, per TAN, per visit, whatever you want to call it, anytime that cash register gets rung up, that's really the fairest way to do it. Now, your software may be able to provide these numbers, but if not, simple division, the numbers I'm going to show you, I should say, but simple division in a calculator can get the job done. So you first want to separate your numbers by employees, and the numbers of shifts, as Dion is saying, or when those shifts occur, make very little difference. We have to admit that with few exceptions, probably 90% of Salon employees are the millennial generation. Most of them love to compete. They love feedback. They grew up with getting this immediate feedback from computer modules and labs they were doing when they were 9 years old. When I was still working, let's see, I was 15. When I was 15, Dion, I was working with a slide rule. Oh, yeah, that's even too old.
You are old. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I have to admit, I am. Yes, but it was a slide rule. But by the way, I think I could still probably do it. But okay, so let's go into some of these. Per sale average. This number includes both services and products dollars divided by transactions the employee handled. So it's easy. Here's an example, and we'll call this employee. Now, by the way, the numbers I'm going to show you today are real numbers from a real salon. The names are the same. I'm not, of course, going to tell you who the salon is, but this will give you an idea how to do this. This employee, her name is Kristen. She had 825 transactions in the prior month. She works a lot of shifts, and this was, of course, during peak. Her total sales were $5,568.75 for that month. So very simple. Just divide that by the 825 transactions, and she has a PSA of $6.75. And that's per sale average, as Dion had mentioned before. And so when you look at that 675, you ask yourself, is that good or is it bad? Well, good or bad are relative terms, and the best thing you can do is look at what the rest of your employees are doing and what the average of your salon or salons, plural, are doing. Now, you can look at salons in other markets. We've got, I believe at the Power Group, I believe we have the only aggregated data across the country, and I'm going to say that there is a couple hundred salons that are in that data. No one sees that data except for me, but I think I'm the only one that keeps it, and that's because if I'm lucky enough to work with another Dion or another chain, I incorporate their numbers as best as I can. And so with some people, you'll see a PSA. I've seen PSAs $1.50 lower than this. I've seen PSAs $1.50 higher. If you go to Los Angeles area, particularly North Hollywood, higher PSAs, more money spent. Boston, New York, major metro markets, often the PSA is higher. But you don't know. I mean, 675 is not a bad PSA. It's not fantastic, but it's an okay PSA. And then you get to your lotion, your LPSA, your lotion per sale average. Again, it's critical to know the average per transaction for lotions and product sales each employee is producing. So here's Kristen again. Kristen, 825 transactions, sold $11.96.25 in salons and lotions, so we divide it. It's $1.45. Now, I think, Dion, you would agree with me that's kind of a low figure.
Low to average.
Yeah, it is. It's what we did is we took our Power Group's clients and we averaged them out, and this peak we averaged at 220. Now, we had people that were down in the $1.10, and we had people up like 350. So it averaged out, just to give you folks out there kind of an idea. So again, simple division. You don't have to be a brain like Dion Borkowitz. You can just take this stuff and divide it by the transactions, and if you do that for each person, you start to get a relative feel on what they're doing. Now, going back to what Dion said before, and I love the way he said it, during the day, gee, you've got more time to sell people, but you don't have very many people, and gee, it seems like everybody that comes in during the day has already got an EFT, blah, 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 blah. And so you get arguments both ways. Everyone has opportunities to sell EFT memberships, because I think if you take a look at the number of people that you've got on EFTs versus your total of unique tanners, people that are individuals, the number of individuals that did business with you over the prior year, typically what you're going to see is going to be less than 20%. Now, some chains, it's considerably more than that. I know chains that have got 55, 58% of their revenue as EFT. I know, Dion, your EFT has come up quite a bit since a year ago.
Oh yeah, now in off season, we're 2/3 of our revenue comes in from EFT. I could not survive without that. You need that EFT.
Boy, Dion, you just said a mouthful, because you're still getting that electric bill in July and August and September. You're still getting your lease. You're still getting, if you got equipment rental or equipment lease, or equipment payments. You've got to have that money coming in. And EFT, if you're not on EFTs, you're just kidding yourself. And I saw in the people that are attending this, I saw a couple folks out there in the attendance list that are still kind of wavering on whether or not they should go after EFT. And I'm not trying to make fun of them at all, but just to say, if you're not on EFT, Dion, tell them. Tell them what to do.
Well, you know what? This is a strategic move that the industry had to make. And just think about it. I mean, just look outside. If you analyze in the magazines, the salons that are growing, you got Palm Beach Tan now with 740 salons, I believe, which I was just at the Nashville Trade Show and was in for the ASA convention part of it. I think they're up to 740. You've got suntan cities between 200 and 300. You've got other chains out there. All of these places sell memberships. Just like the gyms, Planet Fitness and all these gyms that are growing, it's memberships. Now, I have 3 gym memberships. I like going to the gym. But I still remember a decade ago, you could go in and you could buy a 1 month, a 3 month, a 10 punch card. You can't do that anymore. The gyms that had the punch cards and the sessions and the short-term packages are closed. The tanning salons that do not make that strategic change and restructure their prices, their memberships to EFT drafted type memberships are the ones that are closing their doors. If you have too many choices, it's like going to a restaurant menu and it's got 3 pages for breakfast and 2 pages for Italian and 3 pages for this and burgers, and it takes you so long to make your decision and you get confused. You want less things. We now have 7 memberships and 2 little packages on the side, including 10 sessions. We don't want to sell them, but rather than having somebody walk out the door, we'll sell it, but the employees don't make commission on it. They don't get the benefits that comes with the membership. Everything has been strategically set up to gear people towards memberships. And it's been something we've always focused on, but have worked on much more in the last year and a few months when I started working with you. Now, I understand at this time of year being slow season, sometimes you have to make those tactical decisions. Tactical is more short-term. It's not getting away from the strategic plan, your long-term goal of working with memberships and working on your draw. Sometimes you have to make those tactical changes. You need some money right now. You have less people coming in. Maybe you do have to have something like a package that gets you in through the end of the year, or maybe you're selling a year package so that you can get some money up front. Just do the minimal of that. You really want to stick with the plan to focus on memberships first. If they don't want a membership, don't sell them 10 sessions. Don't sell them a $25 package. Get rid of those little things. As all the salons are doing that, there's less places for them to go to buy those little packages. And it'll help us in the long run.
Dion, I think I'm just going to shut up and let you give the rest of the webinar, because it's great stuff that you're giving them. I mean, let's start with what you're talking about, going away from selling sessions. I have to tell you, there's a retailer, and I'm obviously not going to say who they are, and this was an astounding revelation. And the owner has been a client of mine before. He's a great guy, and he's a super good business guy, a great accounting just like you, he's got a great accounting background. But I don't think that he had realized, and when we analyzed his numbers, of all of his transactions in the peak season, 69% of them were either single sessions or sessions packages. 69% of his transactions. It was frightening when I looked at that, and of course his EFT volume was very low. It was like 14% or something, 13%, something like that.
And, right, and you might not worry about that during season, but what happens on those days that it's perfectly sunny outside and the weather is perfect, or you have a rainstorm, or the power's out for a couple days, whether it's the summer or the winter due to a snowstorm or wherever you're located?
Right.
The memberships, the money comes in no matter what.
Yep. It's called planned or sold annuities, and it's the annuity factor that kicks in. And I tell you, there's just no way that you can do it by selling sessions or BOGOs. Now, going back to another thing that you said, and you said it's kind of in the off season, which we're in right now, it's not a bad idea to loosen up a little bit on selling some of those sessions, as long as those sessions don't get out of hand where people all of a sudden have 40 of them on their account and they squirrel them away like a checkbook. Now, like just this morning with a client, I recommended that they do for their Black Friday promotion, and we're going to be doing Black Friday promotions all over the country here with our clients, but I suggested that, you could do a BOGO on the 30-day package, because if they buy a 30 and get a 30 free, that means they use it for December and they use it for January, and that's okay, because if they're still using that package come the end of January, we have the opportunity to sell them when the peak season really starts. We have the opportunity to sell them up hopefully to an EFT, or at least to a longer set of packages than they have right now. But you're right. I mean, this time of the year, if you're selling some sessions, as long as it doesn't get too crazy, hey, it's okay, because you still want traffic in the door. But you're right. The saving grace is EFTs. And you mentioned those chains. You mentioned Palm Beach and Suntan City, and there's Brian's chain down in Florida, South Beach Tanning. There's Mike's out in California. South Beach has got 48, and I think Mike's got 38, and the guys out of Ohio have got 47 or whatever. Everybody is increasing their percentage of their business on EFT so they can pay their bills right now with that annuity. So let's talk about EFT close, because I'm going to try not to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I think I was the first one to suggest in the industry about 4 or 5 years ago that we start looking at an EFT close ratio, and that is, of all the transactions that the employee handles, how many EFTs do they sell? Okay, so have ready the number of EFTs sold. This is, again, this simple division that we're trying to talk about. So have the number of EFTs sold at any level for each salesperson for the prior month, plus the number of their individual transactions they handle in the prior month. Again, this is the manager. The manager, now if you don't have a manager, or you've got a single owner, then you know what? You should be doing this for yourself and for your employees. You're putting together your PSA number, you're putting together your LPSA number, you're putting together this EFT close ratio, which is showing you where you're dividing the number of EFTs that a person sells, your employee sells, by the transaction. So here we go again. This is Kristen, and Kristen sold 18 EFTs with 825 transactions. So when we do the division on it, 2.2% of her transactions were EFT closed sales. Now, what does 2.2% mean? It doesn't mean anything until you start to take a look at it in relationship to the other employees. Obviously, if you had somebody that was selling 4 or 5 times as many EFTs as Kristen was, that would tell you that either that other person was great at what they were doing, and it may tell you that Kristen maybe needs some help a little bit on selling her EFTs. And I'll go, as a matter of fact, Dion, I'll go to your staff without mentioning a specific name, but you have a lady there that's a great salesperson, but I believe, if I remember correctly how this went, she was really good at selling EFTs, but maybe not quite as good at selling lotions.
Not sure who we're talking about.
Well, I don't want to mention her name, but you had somebody there specifically when we were doing the numbers. I mean, it's not that she wasn't good at selling lotions. Maybe it's the other way. Maybe it's the other way around. She was really good at selling lotions, but not quite as good at selling. But there's a difference between selling an EFT and a lotion. A lotion sale is a lot more intimate sale. You're spending more time with the customer. The customer has to trust you more because you've got to go into more details about that lotion. And if you want to hear a lotion sale presentation, you should listen to Dion Borkowitz. Matter of fact, Dion, sometime you either should do a webinar with me or do one yourself that talks about how to sell a lotion, because I've never heard anybody that's better than you.
I think we should do that sometime. I don't want to do it myself, but that whole wine analogy and the comparisons and the add-ons.
Oh, the wine analogy. I love it. That was a great analogy.
I have all the PowerPoint slides, so if you ever want to throw that in there, let me know.
You know what? That's great. We got to do that, because I was sitting there, people, in Dion's office with them, and I think it was you had gone over this with your employees, I think, and I had heard it for the first time. After they went out, I started asking you a whole bunch of questions because I love the analogy. I thought it was really good. So you're right. We got to do a lotion thing. That'd be great. Okay, so that's EFT close, and now we've got EFT cancel, because here's the thing, people. When we have employees that sell a lot of EFTs, and they get a bonus for selling that EFT, great. They're rewarded, and they get their money, and that's terrific. What do we do to get their involvement to stop EFTs from being canceled? So we're doing the same thing, only kind of in reverse. So the critical number is all about employees to work as hard at retaining EFT members as it is to sell them in the first place. So what we want to do is, like Kristen, handles 825 transactions, transacts 12 cancels of EFT memberships, so her membership transaction was 1.5. Remember that her sales was 2.2. And when you get to a point in the year, when you get to particularly this time of the year, if they're selling more EFTs, that individual is, then they're canceling, we're in great shape. Now, this is some of the stuff, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what this looks like. We put it on a chart. But I want to give you a little bit of a hint. When we get done here, Dion dropped a bomb on me that was so wonderful about how he really installs a system to cut down on EFT cancels, and it's a great tool for the salespeople to use. So I'm going to show you that in just a second, but let's move to what the final product, when you take these four numbers, PSA, LPSA, EFT sales ratio, EFT cancel ratio, and you're comparing it employees versus each other. And so what happens, you end up with something like this. And this is a chart that I put together for recently. This was for the month of August, as you can see up there. And you see that all of the employees are ranked. PSA ranking, we talked about Kristen before, was $6.75. We then talked about lotion per sale average. Kristen was $1.45. Megan was $2.65. And then you see membership EFT sales ranking. You see membership canceling ranking. So you put all these together. Now, Dion, and I don't know, Dion, that we're going to have time for you to go into, because you kind of sales weighted as well. And I think what's important is for you to go over the incentive you use to cut down on cancels. If we have time, I don't know that we're going to have time for you to go through your sales weighting thing, but Dion takes it a step farther, and he's what we call sales weighting it, where he weights it by in proportion to the numbers, and it's too crazy for me to try to explain it to you, but he does it even more, and that's because he's very detailed on the numbers. But if you look at this, what we did on this chart, this is a chart that the manager made up for that store, and we color-coded it as well. Now, what's powerful about this, any manager that makes up this chart of their people for those four numbers for the prior month, now just think, if you're an owner, or you're a district manager, or a general manager, or you're a regional manager, and you see this come over to you from your manager on his or her store, and you see how they've ranked everybody, I mean, this would impress the devil out of me, that they've gone to this detail, and you can see where everybody ranks. Now, the importance of the ranking is, what do you do with the ranking after that? Well, okay, so what we do is, of course, we come up with what we think is our most valuable player. The composite ranking shows us that, and the most valuable player in this case was Kristen. The MVP composite score is like golf. The low score is best. So Kristen, you add up the points of where she ranked. first place being 1 point. If she was third place, that'd be 3 points. You can do it in reverse if you want. You can calibrate it differently. You can do it in reverse if you've got 6 employees or 5 employees. You could say, well, Kristen was first, so she gets 5 points. In this case, we made it easy. We went with like golf. It's a low score. And Kristen here for that month was what we consider to be our most valuable player, because even though, and we go back here, even if you go back and you see that Kristen on her membership EFT sales was actually, she was third behind the Salon, or fourth behind the Salon average. Okay, so that wasn't great, but look at her cancels. She was number 1 in keeping cancels down, and look at PSA, she was number 1 over there. So, and at LPSA, she was above Salon average. So she was our most valuable player. And I have to tell you that when this Kristen saw this, the motivation was even greater than taking people to the Mall of America, because she really, was ready to pound on her chest and show everybody that she was the best. But let me take you to what's even more important, I think, for a manager to do. You take all these numbers and you come up with a summary. And if that manager puts that summary together and gives it to the Dion's of the world and says, well, here's what happened, here's the points, but here's my improvement, and here's what I'm going to do to make things better. And this should be given to senior management, whoever is above the manager. Again, let's think of a manager in a salon as a person that can really make things happen and not just there in title only. And so what we call it the PIP, the Performance Improvement Plan. And we kept everything color-coded to show the organization who will work with who. And here you go. So again, think of yourself now, you're an owner, and you get, or you're a regional manager, and from each of your stores, you get this report. And this report talks about who is tops in that category, but how you're going to move people around to work with each other to make them better at it. I think, Dion, in your stores, I think Pam was probably one of your best trainers, wasn't she?
Oh, definitely.
She was a killer. Pam was really, really good. But see, that's what you do.
That's not past tense. She's still with me.
I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. I mean, she was the best I know when I was working with you then. But so this performance improvement plan is from the prior month. You don't want to look at over a week. You want to look at a month, because in a week there's too many anomalies that can occur. Like Dion said before, it could be a rainy day, it could be snow or whatever. But this is from a prior month, and so it specifically talks about who needs to be worked with. And to show you the extreme, if you go to the bottom to a Lisa, it says Lisa has not done well for the last 3 months. Her PSA and lotion sales, typo, missed it, are below salon average. Maybe that's lotion sake. Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay. Biggest concerns are her EFT close rate and EFT cancels. And so the action plan over on the other side, regrettably, sometimes we have to face this. Lisa needs to be on a 30-day improvement plan for obvious progress, or possibly replacement. But you're forcing managers to take a look at the numbers and coming up with a plan. And this is huge. So, and it works. It works really well. Okay, so let me move on. I had already given you a hint of something that Dion did that I thought was wonderful, and so I'm going to call it the additional reward that Dion put together. It is for EFTs, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put all the points down here. Dion, I'm going to shut up, which I know is hard to believe, but I want you to talk about what you did to make the MVP and the whole cancels thing even better.
Okay. John, before we go into this, can I just interject for just a couple minutes?
Sure, please.
When you were talking about the chart of what the managers have to do with those employees at the bottom, I'll let you know that if you graph something like this, the manager, the owner, does not just have a qualitative answer, decision, or a response to an employee. This is a quantitative analysis showing them mathematical percentages of what their rankings are, and there's no disputing that. Every time you have a chart like that, that employee that's at the bottom, you don't have to let them go in 30 days. They quit. They don't want to be at the bottom. They're going to try really hard to go up, or they're going to leave.
Yep.
So by putting this together, you can actually save yourself a lot of time because now you're not pulling that person aside, embarrassing them. I don't think you're doing a good job, and we need some improvements. Here's the math. Here's the math right here. And of course, when you have 20 or 30 names, you know, if you're at the bottom, you're going to stand out, and people want to work their way up. I just want to make sure everyone follows this ranking sheet that you have up there.
Yeah, and you've made a good point, and I call it a quantitative Darwinism, really. I mean, not to be real fancy with words about it, but I mean, it does happen. You're right, Dion. What happens is we go through this with every chain. I've got a chain I'm working with right now that has 19 stores, and I've told them, I said, what you're going to see between now and the first of the year, as we go through this, you're going to see a natural Darwinism or a natural flow out of the company of those people that have now found out that this is not the job they thought it was. This isn't about free tanning. It's not about sitting on a stool. It's not about Facebook on their smartphone in between turning on. It's not allowing the 30-second syndrome of handling a customer. And so it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they weren't cut out for the tanning business.
Absolutely.
Okay.
John, can you leave that back up there?
Yep.
I just want to make sure that everyone is totally clear with this, that how obviously we have them ranked as from top to bottom. The highest PSA or PPA, the highest lotion per sales average, membership closing rates. Obviously the other one has to be inverted, which it is, but sometimes people make that tendency. They're going from top down. You want to make sure that when you're ranking that, it's from lowest to highest for that in that case. And remember too, when you're looking at these, if you want to understand what that means, I'll just take 30 seconds for that. But with Kristen for the membership cancels, if she has a 0.015, that means take 1 divided by 0.015. She was canceling someone every 66, 67 clients. If you look at Megan, you take 1 divided by 0.061, she was canceling a person every 16 clients. So
wow.
The percentages sometimes don't stand out as much as if you have a column next to it and just invert that or do the mathematical, inversion of take 1 divided by that score. One more.
I love that. That's great. Actually, Dion, I think you're right. I think that might be more easily recognizable than just using the ratio number.
Absolutely.
I like that.
And then one more thing, when we do our memberships, and of course everyone does it differently, we value our memberships differently, of course. If we have a $24 membership and we have a $59 membership and a $79 membership and in between, the person that's going to sell an all-inclusive $79.90 a month is going to get more credit, more points, more commission than someone that's selling a Club 1 or any type of basic membership. So when we do our EFTs, it's not only, let's say, what did we have that Kristen sold, what was it, 18 memberships?
Yes, I believe so, yes. Let's look here.
Yeah, 18 EFTs with 825 clients. Maybe she sold 18, but in our company, maybe she has 30 points because she sold some Club 2, some Club 3s, and each one is weighted differently. So this is where you can have an employee that might have sold maybe only 5 memberships, but they're the $80 ones. And if someone else has sold 8 memberships, but they're the $24 one, yeah, you're going to weigh them out to be more beneficial and pay more commission to the one that's selling the better memberships because that's going to help the company more with the higher draws and continuous months.
And this is what I referred to before when I said Dion has taken this a step farther by sales weighting it. And you're right, that is absolutely the thing to do. What I'd like to see, Dion, is just salons, getting down to a quantitative measurement like this. Even if they don't do the weighting, even if they just go after this so they can get some kind of a handle of who's doing what. But in the end, if you get your sophistication up, this is what you should be doing with Dion's thought in mind of weighting it, that you're right, a person that sells 18 memberships, but most of them are levels 2 or 3 or 4 as opposed to entry level, that's a lot more value to you than selling all entry level EFTs. So,
absolutely.
Okay, so let's go to I want to get people to, because we're running out of time here, although no one's left us yet, which shows you how silly they are. Glad that you people are still with us. Okay, Dion, tell them about your reward thing for EFT cancels, because I love it.
Okay, so a reward program is what we offer right around the end, kind of 2/3 into season. Now we're trying to lock people in from quitting, because with our memberships, you have to give a one payment notice to cancel. So we don't want people canceling for the summer and for the fall, so we lock them in. They sign an additional contract. It doesn't cost them anything, but they're committing to be a member for the rest of the year. So we offer this, I would say, around mid-April, May, June, July. I think this year we stopped right at the end of July, July 31st or whatever. We were able to sign up almost exactly 50% of our clients that committed to this, which means they have to be active all the rest of the year. So our differential between our peak season checks, May, June, that area, which are the largest, to now, there's only about a 30% difference, and that is because of that commitment that these clients did. So how does this work? When clients come in, we ask them if they will stay active until the end of the year, and in exchange for that, we give them a gift. The gift is in-store bonus bucks. They can use the bonus bucks for upgrades, red light therapy sessions, spray tans, lotions, products, whatever it is. They get credits starting at $75, $100, $125. I think actually our top membership, Club All Inclusive, received $150. They can use that money on anything they want, and they can use it right away. I know the trepidation or the hesitation out there is, well, what if you give them the money and they cancel? Or their payments don't go through? It is so few people that happens to. I would say 5%. The majority know that they have a contract. They sign a piece of paper. Most people are good people. They adhere to this. It's no different than when you go to a company and you sign up for a new phone plan, and many of these will give you a discount or a free phone with a 2-year contract. Yet if you cancel that contract early, you have to reimburse and do a buyout. So these people will commit to this, and it gives them a better way to have a better tan, because now they have money for better equipment, upgraded equipment, occasional spray tans. They'll save it for special occasions. They might try the red light. They might have forgot their lotion bottle. They want to get a packet, or they want an eye protection. We want them to use this up. Everything has to be used by the end of the year. All the bonus bucks expire on December 31st because we start the next year. We don't do this type of stuff in winter or going into season. Now they're paying full price. They're paying for all their upgrades. They're paying for all their lotions. Come towards 2/3 into season or whatever, that area is where we start committing people again and get them to stay active till the end of the year.
Well, the math on it is, the math is powerful. And by the way, a client of mine that I won't tell you geographically where she's from, but her name is Sharice Davis. She came up with an excellent idea, and it's a further interpretation of what you're doing, Dion. She's saying, look, if you stay on full price for 6 months, I don't care when during the year, if you stay on 6 months full price, I'm going to give you a $100 credit into your account that you can use toward, and I think right now they have it just toward lotions. But even if it was lotions and you got a $100 credit and you're paying, somebody gets a $100 bottle of lotion for their in-salon bonus bucks that they've got, that's costing you maybe $20, at the distributed price on lotion. But if they stayed with you a full 6 months, and even if they were at a $40 level, you've taken in $240. I would have that program any day. And what she's doing with the Dion, she's just saying, you stay with me for 6 months, I'm going to give you that credit. Then if you stay with me another 6 months, I'm going to give you that credit. So it's two different ways of looking at it. But I mean, you're the one that started this, and I think it's a great idea.
Well, our logic was just to lock them in for the the off-season months. We automatically get them during, February, March, April, May. We want to lock them in for those other months. So our plan has worked. We've been doing it for probably a decade.
Yeah, a matter of fact, you have been doing it for a long time. And that's what I'm saying to people. What I want to say to them, it's proven. This isn't just some kind of a weird idea. So let's move. I think, Deanna, I'd like you to. We had talked about some of the things that need to be done here, and I'm going to say to everybody that's on this call, it's time now. If you haven't taken a lot of notes, now's the time to take notes because this is some pretty important stuff that we're sharing with you. So there's the little notepad. And, okay, Dion, go ahead. You start, and then I'll jump in whenever.
Well, you got it right there. I mean, this is exactly what you have to do. You want to get people on EFTs. You want the plan to be attractive. Most places have eliminated or really minimized the enrollment or activation fee. You want the package to be short-term, whether it is 3 months, 6 months, definitely nothing longer than that. We require a 4-month minimum, but the first month is prorated. So we call it a 3-draft package, and they can cancel anytime after that with a 1-month notice. But it's something simple, and it gets people into memberships even at this time of year.
Well, and I can tell you, when you talk about an activation fee, I don't know that there's anybody that, because of what I do, the consulting I do, I don't know that there's anybody that talks to as many different sales associates from all over the country as I do. And in talking to them, one of the things they tell me is that one of the first turnoffs on closing somebody on EFT, you get to that prorate, you get to that first month that you have to charge them, and then all of a sudden you're throwing in a $20 or $25 activation fee, and that kills the sale. And so what I say to people all the time, I said, look, I say to owners, for that $25 sale, if you take that out of there, how long does it take for you to recover that? Now, if somebody is on a 6-month EFT agreement with you, you're going to get that money back fairly quickly. Is there a gamble if they're only on a 3-month? Possibly. But, we're at a point where we just have to get every living body that we can signed up for an EFT agreement. And if activation fees kill that closing process, I say kill the activation fee, because it's just not worth it. It's not worth losing that possible customer that you can have for EFT. And I know another thing that we've talked about is the average draw, Dion.
Absolutely. John, this has a lot to do with when we met late last summer, and I did an evaluation of my salon, and I was actually kind of depressed. We sell a total of 7 memberships, and 2 of them at that time were the $19.99. Therefore, our average draw per person ended up being $26. You told me we should shoot for a goal of $34, and I'm like, how are we going to do that? Well, we are now at $33. So we're talking in 1 year's time, we went up to $33, and we plan on going up from here. We are ordering some new equipment that's coming in January, and at that point, when we start differentiating our higher levels even more, we want to raise the prices of our Club 3 and our Club All-Inclusive plan. Also the fact that, like I said, last winter we eliminated our $19.99 memberships. The clients that are on them can keep them, but if you cancel and come back, now the basic price is $24.99. So this pretty much locks these people in. They don't want to cancel, but as they're leaving, it helps increase my average draw per person. So we're at 33, and we want to go up from there.
Well, you said something powerful when you're talking about the new equipment. One of the things over the years, and of course it's incredibly important, you mentioned it earlier, Dion, on fitness centers, is differentiation. Forget fitness centers. I mean, they have their place in the world, but it's not our place. We sell an experience. And as you have better equipment, those people, those customers that like better equipment, they're less likely to be sensitive on price, because you're giving them something that's differentiated, not just from a fitness center, but from a competitive tanning salon. Because as you go up and higher in the equipment, as you get a bigger and better spaceship, a capsule that they have to be in to tan, you start to differentiate yourself from your competition that may not have as nice of equipment. And what happens is customers start to bond to your specific equipment. It's hard to get people to bond to entry-level beds because, hell, everybody's got them. So
Yep.
you can get to a point where it's easier to increase your average draw. And the other thing, too, is that we started working on this process, and you really were working on all of this going into peak season this year. Your peak 2017, I think you're going to blow right past that $34.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, now, Dion, you are, just so you know, you are not the king of price options, by the way, when you and I start working together. Another chain that I worked with had, when I first started working with them, they had 70, I think 74 different price options. And one that I just started working with, former client that's a client again, we just started working together a couple of weeks ago. I'm not making this up, between 135 and 140 price options. And you had referred to it earlier, Dion, that it's like that menu where I don't know what the hell I want to eat because there's so many things on here I don't know where to start. It's the deer in the headlights.
Yep.
It just It's crazy. And simplifying it makes it so much, it's easier for the salesperson to sell, easier for the customer to buy. Of course, I mean, your incentive program has worked pretty well for you. Dion?
Yes. Oh, actually, you kind of cut out. Yeah, no, we not only do the tracking of the points, but you're paid differently on the different levels, and we have different games and different contests. Like this month is the bingo game. As an employee gets a bingo card, every time they're selling a membership, there's like a different membership on a different square in the bingo card, and as they turn that in, they get a gift. And so everyone is aware of memberships. That's what they focus on.
I love your bingo card thing. That's very cool. This just says, what this says to me, Dion, is you have to be, whether you're an owner or manager or general manager, you just have to be involved. You've got to come up with this kind of stuff. It can't just be by rote every day. You've got to keep your employees from being bored, and that's really cool. And, of course, as we talked about, reducing cancels to offer an incentive for customers to stay active. And, of course, lastly, using the monthly ranking MVP for awards and prizes. And, of course, coming up with your PIP, your Performance Improvement Plan, so your employees know that you're trying to help them to get better. Dion, you've been fantastic as always, and I love the idea about doing a lotion. And I am not an expert on lotion sales, and you are. And I know a couple associates in stores or managers that are great in them. So maybe we have you and a couple of those people. Because sometimes if you have a manufacturer, I've had manufacturers on these webinars, and they're great and they really know their stuff, but they want to talk about 20 minutes about how selling a specific lotion. And the problem is at the counter, you don't necessarily have 20 minutes to sell a lotion. It's got to be quick. You've got to give them the real important features and benefits, and I think we should do that, Dion. I think people would really like that. Any last comments you have? Because I got a couple last ones I want to fill in, but any last comments you got, Dion?
Nope, I do not.
Nope. Okay, just again to let everybody say, I want to say to them, don't miss out. If you want to get some great content, we've got over 60 webinars in the vault. We have so much content in there, it's ridiculous. When you do SEO on our vault, it's ridiculous content. My books, they're free for download if you're a Vault member. It's only $39.95 a month. It's really cheap. I have one chain that has 19 stores. They have one membership, and they use that same membership for all their employees, and that's fine with me. SunBiz Weekly, you know that we are the only digital magazine out there in the industry. You don't get information from us once a month like the hard copy trade magazines. It's every day we're putting stuff in there. Specifically Mondays of each week is when we do our big releases on new information. So we'd love to have you be along with the 11,000 other unique visitors to the site. So we're real proud of what's happened, and of course now all of our advertisers too. So I can also now go to questions and answers. Let's see what we've got here, because you and I, we've been talking along, and I imagine there are people that are asking us questions, and I've got to see here. Let me pull this out. And okay, so we got some questions, Dion, and we could be in trouble because it's my fault, but okay. Dion, on the EFT, do you recommend to use credit card info for the draw or bank routing numbers for the draw each month? That's asked by Michelle. Michelle, thanks for your question. I'll ask it again, Dion. On EFT, do you recommend using credit card info for the draw or bank routing numbers for the draw each month?
I think there's advantages with each one. Sometimes it's just simpler to, if you have the keyboard that has the credit card strip on it, you're just sliding it across. It's just easier, and most people have credit cards with them. I don't think a lot of people carry checks with them, but if they have a check, we'll accept the check. The nice thing about having checks is, as you know, credit cards expire. People get new credit cards all the time. Then it looks like someone's payment didn't go through. Then you have to modify it. Checks don't change. It just keeps going. So there's advantages to each one.
Okay, thank you. All right, we got another question from Michelle. If you have other questions, we have only a couple of minutes here, guys. If you've got other questions, and we're going to take this one, and we maybe should get going here because we are running really late, and That's because Dion and I are both passionate about this subject. But question for Michelle again. John, would you recommend the BOGO to be buy one, get a free, or buy one? Oh, okay, okay. Well, as a matter of fact, I've got an opinion on that, but I'm going to ask Dion. Dion, would you recommend if you do a BOGO, which it wouldn't exactly be a pure BOGO, BOGO is buy one, get one, but she's saying, would you recommend using a BOGO, would you buy one, get one free, or would you buy one, get the next one half off? I guess you wouldn't call it a BOGO then, would you? Dion, what do you think?
That's true. It wouldn't be a BOGO. But those are all tactical, short-term decisions. So long as the strategic plan is to work on memberships, you have to do what you have to do. That's a short-term type of a sale.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Okay, people, again, I want to tell you the video will be available of this webinar. The replay with the PowerPoint and the whole thing will be available on SunBiz Weekly later on this evening. And want to thank everybody and Dion for being with us. But what we would like, if you would, we have a post-webinar survey. We'd really like to have your feedback about this webinar. Tell us if we helped you or if we were just full of hot air. Please, we need the feedback. And again, if you want to join SunBiz Weekly, there's the website down there below. And I don't know who put in that phone number, but that's definitely not my phone number. But you, yeah, 123. Try area code 123.
Right.
It's probably Al Qaeda. I don't know. But anyway, you can see my email address. Again, Dion, I can't thank you enough. You're wonderful, and I'm sure the feedback is going to be, you know, let's get Dion back again, and I think we should do that. So, guys, thank you very much for being with us today, and we're going to close this down, and we hope to have you again soon on another SunBiz Weekly webinar.